The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
In June of 1775, the Continental Congress created a unified army out of the revolutionary forces encamped around Boston and New York, and named after the great George Washington, Commander-in-Chief. The Continental Army suffered a bitter winter of Valley Forge, found glory across the waters of the Delaware, and seized victory from Cornwallis of Yorktown. Our army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. And at Fort McHenry, under the rocket's red glare, it had nothing but victory.
Yeah, it took over the airports, everybody. Happy 4th of July to you. Happy 4th of July. That was 5 years ago. Do you think he's mentally declined since then, or mentally, increased his capacity to read a teleprompter? I mean, come on now. This is a mental problem that we have with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a severely sick man. He is mentally impaired in every way that you would count when you're counting on somebody to be your president. He has no compassion. He can't tell the truth. He can't read. He doesn't know history. He had to read that off the teleprompter and still mangled because he doesn't know what a rampart is. It like boggled his mind. Said they took over the airports. I mean, come on. This guy, why are we talking about any other person except for the person who wants to end democracy? What is going on with mainstream media? I don't understand it. I'm not really clear. The only conclusion I can come to about why the media is doing what they're doing for a week now, for an entire week, criticizing an appearance when we've had a very successful presidency thus far. We have had major pieces of legislation in a very difficult Congress actually get signed by a president. The immigration issue is, down to almost a trickle, okay, down at the border. That's, something that we can fix if we only had a Congress that was willing to put it into the law, but we don't because Republicans said no, and they would rather have the issue so that Donald Trump can stand on a stage and scream about mass deportations and camps. Do you hear me? Camps. Raids, mass deportation using the men in blue. Some people need killing, they said over the weekend. I mean, why are we talking about any other thing? The only reason I can sort of kind of wrap my brain around with regard to, commercial media, mainstream media, whatever you want to call corporate media, is that they just don't know how to talk about the end of democracy. That's the only conclusion I can come to about why they're doing what they're doing, why they're beating the crap out of somebody who deserves to be applauded, who deserves to be admired at 81 years old. You tell me, okay? I'm only in my mid-60s, okay? I'm 66 years old. I could never keep that schedule that he has. I mean, I slept all day the first day I had off. The whole freaking day I slept. Did I wake up refreshed? No. I woke up hungry. I ate and went back to sleep. Tell me you could keep his schedule at 81 years old. You can't. This guy is so fit, mentally, physically. He does have a problem stuttering, and there is also a little thing called cluttering, which, makes it so that you mash a whole bunch of thoughts and preparation, over preparing for something. I've had that happen to me. I was over-lawyered once on a case, where, of course, I'm always being sued. I'm like Ida Lupino in those old 1940s movies. She's always running from prison. Well, we'll all be running from prison if Trump's elected. But, I was always on the stand. I was always, and sometimes, one time, I was over-prepped. I had too many things going on in my head, too many facts being thrown at me, too many answers to questions that we all suspected would come my way. instead of just letting me do me, I think that's what I don't even want to talk about it anymore. It sucked. It was bad. But we have a mentally hindered, mentally deficient, mentally warped. We have a thug wanting to be the president. And for some strange reason, when the Supreme Court gave this man immunity, almost absolute immunity, which will corrupt absolutely. It is the end of democracy. That one Supreme Court ruling last week, on top of all the other ones, okay, the doing away slowly, incrementally, taking away rights. I told you, go all the way back to the voting rights decision where, what Alito said, racism is over. It's dead. It doesn't exist anymore. We don't have it. It's a thing of the past, and there's no reason for us to have the Voting Rights Act anymore. What? Yeah. And then, fast forward into women don't have any rights left, right? And then move on to the president has all the rights. The president can do whatever he wants. And for some reason, the media doesn't take this as a monstrous threat to the way that we've lived our lives in this here country for 200 plus years. This is not what they're reporting on. They're trying to say, oh, well, maybe he has Parkinson's disease, or maybe I don't care. I don't care. I told you, I don't care. If he was on a gurney, on a ventilator, on life support, and I got to the voting booth and I saw the two names, guess which one I'm choosing? And it all comes down to us. It does. It just comes down to you and me. And I find it really difficult to believe that even people who are telling me, well, even those people, that they will show up at the ballot box on that day and that they will see the two names and that they will say, I'm voting for Trump. I don't see that. I don't see it happening. I don't see anybody who gives a damn about their freedom. I don't see anybody who gives a damn about compassion or decency or character or the presidency or this country voting the other way. I just want, we haven't even, I don't know. The man that people are saying could win is an enabler of all criminal elements in this country. All of them. Do you know how he spent this 4th of July? Do you have any idea how he spent this 4th of July? He actually stood on a stage and saluted the January 6th prisoners, the January 6th insurrectionists who did violence at the Capitol, who were convicted for doing violence at the Capitol. And he saluted them. He saluted them as political on the 4th of July. This is sick. This is twisted.
Ladies and gentlemen,
listen.
Please rise for the horribly and unfairly treated January 6th hostages.
Oh, good God. I'm sorry. You know why that feels wrong? Because it is wrong. That's why that looks so weird and feels so strange. That is not the American way. We do not take the 4th of July and salute people who attack the Capitol. And the media doesn't want to talk about any of it. They just want to talk about whether or not Joe Biden did well at a debate. No, he didn't. Move on.
People died that day. What must their families be feeling when they see something like that? It
died
is
what day?
Disgusting.
Oh, January 6th. Yeah. They love killing. That's all they talk about. They talk about bloodbaths, bloodless coups. It'll be bloodless, they said. The head of the Heritage Foundation, he's a sick F, okay? That man is a twisted freak of nature. He actually said out loud on Steve Bannon's show. Now, think about this. Steve Bannon, who was inside the White House, hired by Donald Trump, is hosting the Heritage Foundation, and Steve Bannon was talking about staffing this government up ahead. That's the lesson he learned, that when they won the last time, they were surprised and they didn't have the hundreds of thousands of people they needed to rush into the government to be loyal to Trump. That was a mistake. And now Donald Trump is saying that the Heritage Foundation, he has nothing to do with them. They're on Steve Bannon's show. Steve Bannon is in jail. There's a fill-in, and they're on Steve Bannon's show.
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
The left has taken over our institutions. The reason that they are apoplectic right now, the reason that so many anchors on MSNBC, for example, are losing their minds daily is because our side is winning. And so I come full circle in this response and just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
Well, that sounds like a threat to me.
What?
Right. We're in the middle of the second revolution, and it will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be. Otherwise, what? You're going to kill us? You're going to kill us? Is that what you're saying there, Mr. Heritage Foundation? That's Kevin Roberts. He is the head of the Heritage Foundation threatening us, literally saying that there's a threat to life and limb if they don't get their way. What the F, man? I mean, really, and the media would rather, cover a week-old debate? Really? That's what you got on your playlist today? Dude, there was a guy is running for governor of North Carolina. He's the lieutenant governor now. Went to a little church in a tiny town, okay? A little church, and threatened everybody. Said some people just need killing. Some people, some folks just need killing.
You know, it was a time when we used to meet evil on the battlefield, and guess what we did to it? We killed it. We didn't quibble about it. We didn't argue about it. We didn't fight about it. We killed it. When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, what did we do? We flew to Japan, and we killed the Japanese Army and Navy. We didn't even quibble about it. I didn't start this fight. You did. You wanted to be left alone. You should have left me alone. We didn't argue and capitulate and talk about, well, maybe we shouldn't fight the Nazis that hard. No, they're bad. Kill them. Some liberal somewhere is going to say that sounds awful. Too bad. Get mad at me if you want to. Some folks need killing. It's time for somebody to say it.
Good Lord, man. Good Lord.
Who are you talking about, bud? Name names.
He did. Evildoers and rapists. And, then he was just generally saying that extrajudicial killings were just fine with him because he knows evil when he sees it, and some people just need killing, and it's about time somebody says it. Mark Robinson, everybody, another great GOP, bold leader who wants to go where no American has ever gone before. Extrajudicial killings. And the Supreme Court is literally riding on that train. They're literally giving permission to Donald Trump to be that kind of autocrat. And the media only wants to talk about, whether or not Biden has a neurological condition and why. I mean, bite me already, okay? It's so unbearable to watch this swill. Now, here's why we're in trouble, okay? This is why we're in trouble. We're in trouble because the media does not support a decent candidate. The media is literally doing exactly what it did in 2016. The media is making some sort of a equal call about, like they did with Hillary, that Hillary was, as bad as Donald Trump was. Right? That Hillary and Donald Trump were equal, except that, one was a Democrat, one was a Republican. Trump had been convicted, he had been found liable of running a fake university in the middle of the last campaign, the one against Hillary in 2016. It's hard to believe how many times we've been down this road and people still aren't smart enough to know that you don't cover somebody running against this fraud, this crook, this abuser of women, this rapist. A judge said he was a rapist. I didn't say he was a rapist. A judge did. And cover him the way that you would cover Joe Biden. Or cover him the way that you would cover Hillary Clinton. I cannot believe they're doing this again. So that's why we're in trouble. We're in trouble because the Supreme Court has now gone all the way. It's like 10 years later, okay? And they have gone all the way down the road of saying the president can do whatever he wants. You know that idea that no man is above the law? Out the window. Out the window. They threw the baby out with the bathwater. They literally did that. Yes? You were going like this to me. What?
Oh, no, that wasn't to you. That was my natural reaction to the phone call I was getting.
Oh.
I just kind of, that was more of a symbolic thing.
Oh, okay. Well, we are in trouble because the media does not know how to cover a criminal. The media does not know how to cover a Supreme Court that just trashed the Constitution. The media doesn't know how to cover an autocrat. They don't know how to cover Project 2025, which is the modern, this is so amazing to me that, when Mein Kampf was written? It was written in 1925. That's why it's called Project 2025. I just hope you get the symbolism that they get. And the media doesn't know what to do with any of this. They don't know how to talk about a guy who is, having 20 of his, and, everybody that wrote the Project 2025 crap, which whatever part of your life you want the government out of, in Project 2025, they are now in it. They're in every nook and cranny of your life. If you're a protester, you can't do that because they will kill you, okay? If you're somebody that has never broken the law, if Trump doesn't like you, they say that the DOJ, the Supreme Court said, DOJ can be under the direction of the president. No more firewall between politics and the Department of Justice. And if the president wants to prosecute you on made-up I got an email this weekend. It was a long week, okay? It really was. And I needed to take the time. I really had to think this through. So I just want you to know that I have considered all of it. But when I read the decision that the Supreme Court made, and it said clearly that the Department of Justice is now part of the president's purview, and that he can prosecute whoever he wants. And if he is doing a political prosecution of an enemy, right? And there's no there. And you find that out about 2 years into the persecution. Nothing can be done about it. President decided he wanted. So I got an email from a guy. His name's Bob. Writes me all the time. You know who you are, Bob. I got really crazy grammar, but I always answer you, don't I? He asked me, I swear to God, he asked me, could a President Donald Trump hurt Taylor Swift? I swear to God. He asked me that. And I had to say yes. Because if Donald Trump doesn't like Taylor Swift's politics, he could prosecute her for a made-up crime and make her life hell for 3-4 years.
We might be missing quite a few actors and actresses, actually, if that
That's
happens.
right. That's right. And journalists and talk show hosts and anchors. Entire channels. Seriously, this is what the Supreme Court did. And instead, I'm watching the White House press secretary spar with the press about Biden's medical exams. Biden does not have Alzheimer's. Biden is 81. Donald Trump is 78. One is a mentally deranged thug, and the other one is an 81-year-old decent man.
Clear. Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Okay, I just want you to imagine if Joe Biden did this.
We have a situation where we're looking very strongly at sinks and showers and other elements of bathrooms where you turn the faucet on in areas where there's tremendous amounts of water, where the water rushes out to sea because you could never handle it, and you don't get any water. You turn on the faucet, you don't get any water. They take a shower and water comes dripping out. It's dripping out, very quietly dripping out. People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times, as opposed to once. They end up using more water. So EPA is looking at that very strongly, at my suggestion. You go into a new building or a new house or a new home, and they have standards on where you don't get water. You can't wash your hands practically. There's so little water comes out of the faucet. And the end result is you leave the faucet on, and it takes you much longer to wash your hands. You end up using the same amount of water. So we're looking at very seriously at opening up the standard. And there may be some areas where we'll go the other route, desert areas, but for the most part, you have many states where they have so much water that it comes down. It's called rain, that they don't know what to do with it. So we're going to be opening up that, I believe, and we're looking at changing the standards very soon.
You also want to look at if you put the disinfectant on the inside of the body, because you see it does a number on the lungs. Can you imagine if Joe Biden did that at a cabinet meeting? That was a cabinet meeting. That wasn't a rally. That wasn't him speaking, like off the cuff and trying to burn through time because, people had stood out in the 110-degree weather to hear him. No. That was a cabinet meeting. And his cabinet members, who are supposed to be the smartest, brightest, best, in charge of all of these agents, sitting there, letting him talk like this, over and over and over and over and over.
And we're doing it with a lot of other things, dishwashers. I won't tell you one of the things, because every time I tell you, they do a big number on it. You know the one I'm talking about, right? Sinks, right? Showers. And what goes with a sink and a shower?
Oh, my God. If you find yourself at a Trump rally yelling out toilets, you got problems. You got bigger problems than Biden will ever have with your brain. They have taken your brain out of your head and put in a garbage can for trash people to get in there. This is a garbage human being. And they're doing the same damn thing as if, this guy is not now a convicted felon. Okay, back in 2016, he was just liable for running a fraudulent university and had to pay $25 million to people who went to Trump University. Okay, he had been sued about 8,550 times. He refused to rent to black people or show apartments to black people. He was cited by the Equal Opportunity and Employment Commission, and then did it again. So you knew who he was. He ran a full page ad in New York, I think it was the New York Times, the New York Post, I can't even remember anymore, about the Central Park Five, and that he was for the death penalty for the Central Park Five. And then they were, during the campaign, they were found not guilty by virtue of DNA evidence that exculpated them, that showed that they could not have done that rape in the park that day. And he still said they should be in jail. Can you imagine both sidesing that? That's what the media did. That's what they did. Now he's a convicted felon, and they're both sidesing it. I'm sorry, but there is no both sides to these two men who want to be president of the United States. There just isn't. The equalizing of Donald Trump's ridiculous criminal behavior and equating him with Joe Biden and the veracity, of Joe Biden, or the honesty of Joe Biden, or the accomplishments of Joe Biden, or the decency of Joe Biden, or the different. Trump has no policies. You understand that, okay? If you ask Trump, what is your health care policy? He has no idea what his health care policy is. If you ask Donald Trump, what is your policy on, climate change? There is no such thing as climate change. He's against dishwashers and showers that don't provide, blasts of water like a hose or so. I don't even understand. And people stand there and pretend that he has policies that would benefit their lives. They pretend.
When I go out now into the world since the conviction, and I go to tackle the MAGA in my life about these issues, and I bring up the felony conviction, well, their new go-to, and it's across the board, is, well, they're all criminals. What do you mean? No, they're all criminals. You don't know what they're doing. Of course they didn't get caught, but every one of those senators, House members, Joe Biden, they're all criminals, so I don't mind.
Okay, they're not. The criminals that we have in the Democratic Party are actually adjudicated. They are tried. You got, the New Jersey senator is closing arguments today. Bob Menendez in New Jersey, I'm sorry, but, you have Hunter Biden, the son of a president, literally convicted of the one gun crime that you could commit in America. Checking the box that you're not an addict when you are. The only gun crime we have. I mean, what is wrong with people? What is wrong with them? The idea that Donald Trump has made everybody believe that every single public servant, every single civil servant, every single president, every single vice president, every single House member, and every senator is a criminal is only because Donald Trump is, and he wants you to think that. That's it. It's not any more complicated than that. We don't have 535 criminals on Capitol Hill. We did have Bob Menendez as a senator who went on trial. And, you know, it's so interesting because when you had the governor of Virginia, what was his name? McDonnell, Bob McDonnell, he was taking bribes, you know, for to help pay for his daughter's wedding. He was convicted. You know what the Supreme Court did? They made bribery legal. They made bribery legal. They literally told Bob McDonnell he didn't have to go to jail. He wasn't guilty. And this time around, in this session, they said, oh, you know, you can take a bribe. It's called a gratuity. A gratuity. Just don't take it before the deed. Take it after the deed is done. And then you're cool. You're okay. Kavanaugh wrote that. That is sick. That is twisted. You will end up with a House full of criminals. You will end up with a Senate full of criminals. And you will end up with a White House with convicted criminals. Why is it that every single person around Donald Trump is in jail now or was in jail? Okay? Why did Manafort need a pardon, the campaign manager? Why is Peter Navarro, the trade advisor, why is he in prison? Why is Steve Bannon in prison? I mean, everybody. Why did Rudy Giuliani lose his law license? He's been disbarred. They're all criminals? No, but everyone around Trump seems to be one. Unbelievable. Just, oh my God.
Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
It's true that not understanding how old 81 years old looks sometimes is maybe a Democratic Party mistake. But Democrats are not the party that picked the guy whose charity was shut down as a fraud, whose fake university was shut down as a fraud, whose business was convicted on multiple felony fraud counts, whose CFO is quite literally in jail, who had one personal lawyer put in prison and the other has lost his law license, who has been charged under the Espionage Act for whatever this is that he was doing with highly classified documents, including, reportedly, nuclear secrets, who was found liable by a jury for sexual assault, who has been charged with more than a dozen felonies under a RICO indictment in the state of Georgia, and who really has been found guilty by another jury of 30-plus felonies for which he is now awaiting a possible prison sentence. That's who you guys picked. I love that the worry in this instance is that the Democrats might have made a bad choice for their nominee. Only in America.
Yes. Thank you, Rachel. Only in America could this be happening. Only in America would there be some sort of equality between a convicted felon, a guy who has been found liable for running fraudulent businesses, a guy who can't even run a charity in the state of New York, a guy whose every acquaintance, every friend, every cabinet member is either in prison or waiting to go to prison. A guy who is responsible for drafting the American contemporary 100-year later version of Mein Kampf, Project 2025, is now disavowing, because he's a liar, Project 2025 has anything to do with it. He has nothing to do with Project 2025.
Your organization is named the Heritage Foundation because you understand that our glorious heritage is the foundation of everything we hope to achieve, which is why we need the help of the Heritage Foundation and everyone here tonight to get our tax cuts through the House, through the Senate.
I mean, it's just so sick. And he's all over the Project 2025 page. Okay, he's everywhere on Project. There's a Trump Project 2025 page. And he has the nerve to sit there and go, I have nothing to do with it. I don't even know what's in Project 2025. I think some of the things in Project 2025 are, just heinous or ugly, or some word that he never uses is now attributed to him using. How do you have an opinion of Project 2025 if you don't know what's in Project 2025? Because he's a liar. Of course he knows what's in it. 20 of his staff, 20 from the White House, 20 officials from the White House, including the head of the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, okay? They are the authors of this Mein Kampf version of Project 2025. They are the ones who sat and put the pen to the paper. They're the ones who drafted the 900 pages of Project 2025 that literally takes the jobs away from hundreds of thousands of civil servants and then and they have them in training right now. I don't even know if you know this, but the media won't tell it to you. There's literally a training camp for Project 2025 civil servants so that they're ready to surge into the government in the first 180 days, okay? It's 180 days instead of 100 days of the honeymoon period, which most presidents, have, and they make terrible decisions or terrible mistakes, or you see them doing bad things or saying bad things or fumbling around or not doing anything, playing golf too much, whatever. You get a honeymoon, okay? In 6 months, 180 days, if Donald Trump would ever be given the nod by the population of this here fine country to do it his way, in 6 months, you will not recognize your country because the civil servants that you count on to be apolitical and experts in their field would be replaced with these Trump loyalists who are in training in camps right now, being trained by the Heritage Foundation to surge into government. And that's not the only thing either, okay? Yes, civil servants will be replaced by MAGA, okay? But also the Department of Justice would then be given the go to go ahead and politically prosecute anybody that Donald Trump's been talking about prosecuting because he doesn't like them. And that's what prompted the question, could Trump hurt Taylor Swift? Yes, of course he can. He could prosecute anybody. And if it's found to be a junk prosecution, a political prosecution, a fake prosecution, a fraudulent prosecution, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Nothing will happen to him. He's been given immunity from just about everything. He could actually order SEAL Team 6 to kill his political enemies, but he won't. He won't. He'll prosecute people. He said he wants a military tribunal to prosecute Liz Cheney, because of the select committee, because of the January 6th evidence that we were allowed to see. It's very sick. It's very sad. But that, and I got to say, Taraji P. Henson, did you see her at one of the award shows? She stood up and she said, my God, everybody, you got to pay attention to this Project 2025. She's like, this is no joke. This is no joke. The Department of Justice is going to actually decide to prosecute political enemies.
Your organization is named the...
Oh, sorry.
Pay attention. It's not a secret. Look it up. They are attacking our most vulnerable citizens. The Project 2025 plan is not a game. Look it up.
I mean, when I look at her, she looks gorgeous, okay? There's just no doubt about it. But it looks like a scene from a dystopian movie. That does not look like it's real America in real time on a live broadcast at an award show, but it is.
I watched the BET Awards for the first time in years because she was hosting. She did a great job, but then when that happened, I was so proud of what she did all night. That was just amazing.
But you look at that little piece of video and you realize that's real. It doesn't look real. It looks like something out of Hunger Games, at the beginning. It looks like, costumes, and it looks like, some sort of a dystopian future world that is going on there. But no. That was a live broadcast at an awards show where Taraji P. Henson had to get up and say, pay attention. Pay attention. This Project 2025 thing is serious.
According to some reports, the project actually began trending on Google immediately after those comments. But even with the new influx of attention, I still think the details of Project 2025 are undercovered relative to how absolutely unhinged they are, even by the standards of today's Republican Party. So, first and foremost, there is this nakedly authoritarian plotting, like the plan to weaponize the Department of Justice as a tool directly under the control of Donald Trump. Quoting from the document itself, the DOJ falls under the direct supervision and control of the President of the United States as a component of the executive branch.
Oh, good God.
Litigation decisions must be made consistent with the President's agenda. By the way, Justice Joan Rivers just endorsed that in the 6-3 immunity decision, so they've got carte blanche on that. What it means is that Donald Trump directs the Department of Justice. There is no independence. There's no firewall. He tells them what to do, who to prosecute, who to defend, and the like.
You think about that. You think about that. The full force of the Department of Justice. You're talking, prosecutors and convening grand jury. The whole thing. They decide now. The president decides, and it has to be in accordance with the president's desires, his agenda. Okay, he can prosecute anybody he wants to gum up their lives, to make a wreck out of their lives, even if they haven't done anything. And he also decides who to defend. So Steve Bannon and Roger Stone and Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn, people who do really ugly espionage things, people who hand over, classified information or nuclear, positioning or plans or patents to our version of Iron Dome, should we have one, to enemies. To enemies of ours, they get defended. They get a complete and total defense from the Department of Justice, where people who are reporting the news that he doesn't like, they get prosecuted and their lives are upended and they go broke trying to defend themselves. Something I know a little about. It's horrendous. It's horrendous. This is the world that you want to live in? This is the country you think that, you should have? No, and that's why this is such an exercise in both sidesing it, the media is doing here, because they know that one man is a felon and the other is decent. They have to beat up on the decent guy so that they feel that they've earned the right to criticize Donald Trump. I'm sorry, but Donald Trump is the architect of every bad thing that has happened to Donald Trump, okay? He did enter into an NDA. He did spend money and pay money and misclassify it on his books. He ran a fraudulent charity. He ran a fraudulent university. He commits felonies. He lies. He steals. He cheats. Nobody else.
Mary had a little lamb. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
If you really want to understand what a Trump return to the White House would look like, listen to what Steve Bannon is saying. So I saw recently, while you were on the air doing your show, Donald Trump called.
Hey, Mr. President, I'm live on TV. Can I call you back? I'll call you back, sir. Thank you.
How often are you talking to him?
I don't want to talk details, but we keep in pretty good contact. A lot of the things we talk about end up in his speeches, so we talk frequently enough.
Steve Bannon's worldview echoes loudly in Trump's speeches, with retribution, a central theme of Bannon's war room, a cornerstone of the Trump campaign.
In 2016, I declared, I am your voice. Today I add, I am your warrior. I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution.
Some of those who served Trump and crossed him say they're worried. Stephanie Grisham, who was the communications director, the press secretary, communications director for chief of staff for the First Lady.
You're not talking about people like that. That's ridiculous.
She says that she's worried about being charged with treason, that she could be disappeared someday.
That's absurd. I'm talking about people in positions of authority. For instance,
Andrew McCabe, the former deputy judge, he says he might have to leave the country.
He ought to be very worried. He's definitely going to be investigated. So is Comey. So is Esper. I believe Milley will. People, look at what happened in. Look what happened.
Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs.
Yes,
staff.
because look at we don't know what conversations he had outside the military chain of command when he's chairman of the Joint Chiefs, when he talked to the Chinese, when he talked to Nancy Pelosi. We have to investigate all that. If you haven't done anything, you shouldn't worry.
Well, they're worried because Trump and you are talking about retribution. You're talking
it's
about
not retribution at all. First off,
wait. Those were his words, not my words.
He says
your retribution.
And what he says by retribution, he said, like he said last night on the debate stage, his retribution is a very successful, more successful second term. What we're saying is we want justice. We want to have full investigations, and then if criminal charges come up, then criminal charges come up.
I mean, you made a promise on your show, as you said, that the Attorney General will be in prison.
100%.
So you're not just talking about investigation. Is Bill Barr on the retribution list?
I think Bill Barr has to be investigated.
Everybody needs to be investigated in their world. Everybody. Merrick Garland needs to be investigated. Merrick Garland, the most mild-mannered person of complete and utter, a law-abiding person, a person who literally was up to be a Supreme Court justice, except Mitch McConnell, blocked him. I don't even want to say what kind of block it was, and held that seat open for 11 months, so that he could put Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court, because that's what the Heritage Foundation, that's what the Federalist Society, that's what Donors Trust, that's what the dark money wanted. And that's the list that they handed to Donald Trump. And now they're disavowing each other, right? So Bannon is taking calls on his show, during his show, from Donald Trump. Bannon is coordinating with the Heritage Foundation guy who went on Bannon's show and said, Kevin Roberts, the head of the Heritage Foundation, was on Bannon's show saying that we're in the middle of the Second Revolutionary War and it will be a bloodless coup if the left lets it be bloodless. Otherwise, it'll be bloody. It'll be a bloodbath, the way Donald Trump's described. They like talking about bloodletting a lot because they're like freaking vampires is what it is. But they don't know each other. This is what we're supposed to believe. They don't know each other. They don't talk to each other. Although there's video of them actually. A Trump voter has got to be at this point either mentally ill, addicted to substances, or completely brainwashed. Because there's so much to see and to hear. And Donald Trump is very famous for taking both sides of a situation and giving voice to both sides, so that if one side fails, he can say, I said it would fail. If one side wins, I said it would win, because he said both things. I can't believe that people just don't understand that that's the game, that he'll say both things. And so whatever happens, he can say, I said that would happen. It's very twisted. It really is. But I think the media has memory loss. I really do. I think the media is afraid to actually explain what we're looking at, what we're facing here, what the Supreme Court decided in the last session. Not only that, bribery is legal. I mean, I can't believe that they literally said that you could call a bribe a gratuity as long as you take it after the deed is done. Then it's not a bribe. I mean, it's mesmerizing how lawless the Supreme Court wants us to be, the environment in which they want us to strive. The idea that the wealthy own this country and the wealthy own them, and they know it. And so bribery is now legal. And they have to do that because there's two Supreme Court justices who are so dirty, who are so compromised, who are such bribe takers, that there's no doubt in my mind that if Donald Trump is the president, they will literally step aside and allow him to appoint, 40-year-olds, right? Because they're done. They're done. They got everything that they wanted out of this, Supreme Court. They got houses, they got RVs, they got cash, they probably have secret bank accounts somewhere. I mean, it's an amazing Supreme Court. I have never seen such unbelievable lawlessness at a Supreme Court, and an acknowledgement that we have bribery, and as long as you're bribing, the right people, it's totally legal. And now they're saying, you can use the Department of Justice to prosecute your political enemies, and by the way, you also have immunity from anything that you do while you're. I thought using your office for personal benefit was a crime. But they just said if you use your office for personal benefit, you're immune. What? Didn't you always think that if you used your official office to enrich yourself, that was a crime, like a quid pro quo, like that was illegal, like that was a bad thing, that was actionable, that was something that you could... I think that's why Bob Menendez is, having closing arguments today. But now all of a sudden, that's immune. You're immune to prosecution if you're doing it as an official, in your official duty. What? It's very, it's frightening. I don't know what else to tell you, except that we're in trouble because the media is either playing a game for eyeballs, right? And they think that this is the popular conversation that Americans want to have now, which I doubt. Or they're doing it because they're trying to be fair to both sides, even though one side is a convicted felon and the other isn't. I don't know what to tell you, but when the media is literally attacking a decent man in order to appear unbiased, and the other man is a convicted felon who wants to be president of the United States, and the Supreme Court has just said that he has absolute immunity should he make it back to the presidency, and his everybody around him is in jail, everyone around him is in jail and threatening us with us being in jail because they don't like us, and the media doesn't report it exactly that way because that is exactly what it is, then we're in trouble. We're in Badlands. We're in a bad place. We're in a bad... I mean, you look at what just happened in Europe, okay? Europe, they were telling us the hard right in France is going to win. Even Donald Trump said, you should look at what's happening in France. Yeah, well, I looked at what happened. The hard right was rejected in France. The UK just kicked out the Tories. They just kicked out the conservatives after, I don't know what, 14, 15 years? They said, enough of you. Enough of it. Enough of the wealthy running everything, okay? We need help. We really do. And we're sick of you. And we're going to go labor now. We're going to go back to labor. Look at Iran. Iran, they just had a heart surgeon who's a moderate who said, he doesn't believe the mullahs got it right with the hijab laws and everything else. They picked him.
Watched it on TV.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
All right. Ricky in California, hi.
Hi, Randi. I love your show.
Thank you.
I've had to stop watching the news. I mean, this is insane that we thought this would be a 4 or 5 news cycle,
right.
But they keep hammering this issue.
Yeah.
And the reason why they do it is because these people who run these newspapers, I worked in journalism for over 25 years. These people are pretty much in line with the oligarchs. They love tax breaks too. So these editors are determining the tone and the tenor of the coverage that we're hearing. Now, another thing that strikes me is that this is about Kamala Harris. They're so afraid that if he doesn't finish his term, they're going to have to deal with a black woman. And we saw what that got us with Barack Obama. So there's a lot of factors in play here. A lot of it's racism. It's also the institutionalization of journalism embedded into our economy and into this capitalistic system. So, I think, here's my thing. I'm going to listen to you guys, you, Steffi, you folks, keep me balanced, but I'm done with network news. I cannot do it. I'm not going to live the next 4 or 5 months stressed out over an election. And it's an African-American that, look, this country's done a lot to us. They can't hurt us any more than they have. Now, the rest of you folks, you better wake up.
Oh, yes, they can. Ricky, they can hurt you much, much more than they have. They're just getting started. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? I mean,
Randy, it's 500
we're talking
years. It's been
we're
20.
talking camps now, okay? We're talking like prosecuting people for nothing just to make their lives hell. You're talking about absolute immunity for a president to call out the military or the boys in blue or whoever they feel like to beat us, to prosecute us. And as long as we lay there and take it, we won't get too bloody. You know what I mean? It won't be too bloody.
Is that any worse than what happened in the 60s during slavery? I mean, we go back 400 or 500 years.
Slavery, no. But do you think they're done with you? That's kind of crazy. That's kind of nuts.
I kind of hope they are, but
I
if
don't
they're
think
not,
they are. I don't. Well, that's the whole thing, isn't it? That's the whole question now: is who stays and who goes. Who can afford to go will go. Who can't afford to go are going to be here. Okay, they're going to stay. That's really the kind of country that we need. That's what we want. That's what we have. I mean, this is insane. But by the way, I have to tell you, the media, as far as MSNBC, the president of MSNBC is a black woman. Her name's Rashida Jones. So I don't know that I even buy into what you're saying about the editors. And this is all about ratings. It's about what they think people are tuning in to hear. They're wrong. That's what they think, and their thinking has gotten them to the bottom of the barrel. I mean, their thinking has gotten them from, 8 million viewers a day to, 535,000. So, it's just bad decision making. But I don't think they like tax cuts too. I don't think that's it at all.
But look at what happened to CNN.
That's what I'm telling you.
They are losing
CNN is run by, if you look it up, CNN is run by a guy who used to run the BBC. CNN is run by a guy who used to be, like an editor at the New York Times. Your oligarch thing, it doesn't work here. It isn't that. It's just bad decision making. It's saying that a convicted felon needs to be treated in the media the same as Joe Biden, which is insane. That's just bad decisions. It's not. They like tax cuts too. That's not it.
Well, listen, Randy, I'm going to keep listening. I don't disagree. You keep up the fight. We need you folks on the front line for our future in this democracy. Somebody's got to speak out.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm still voting Biden. I don't care what they say.
Me either.
I don't have to listen to this nonsense.
I don't either.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, I do have to listen to it so I can tell you when it stops, okay? But the truth is, I just can't imagine you or me or anybody, even the ugliest troll in this audience, okay, even the sickest person who wants to defend him, getting to the ballot box and saying, do I want political prosecutions and no more freedom and I can't move freely about the nation, and they're going to tell me what drugs I can have and what I can't have, and they're going to tell my wife, and my granddaughter, where they can live and be pregnant safely, or do I want, a guy who's 81 years old who will do no harm? And I just right, I just can't imagine people saying, "I'll choose the guy that'll do no harm." I can't imagine people saying, "No, I want to live in a crazy country. I want to live in total chaos. I want to live in a place where if a disease comes, the president won't know what to do." I just don't. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I don't see that as the majority of Americans. I don't see independents who are exactly who picks the president. You know that, right? Yes, independents pick the president. 10,000 people who can go either way make the difference in the swing states, right? The only state that I'm watching with concern, let's say, I'm not concerned about Michigan, and I'm not concerned about Arizona. I am concerned about Pennsylvania. And so we'll keep our eye on it. But obviously, people in Pennsylvania need to wake up and pay attention to all that will be lost. All that will be lost. You could have a crazy ass man, a thug, a criminal, a guy surrounded by thugs and criminals, a guy surrounded by people who want to use all of the official tools of this unbelievably powerful nation to get even with people they don't like, to get even with the people that made them answer for their own crimes. Or if you really have such a low opinion of Biden that you think he's, frail or feeble or whatever word you want to use, just know he'll do no harm. Now, you choose chaos and burning it down, or do no harm and get through the next 4 years. See, I cannot imagine people actually going in there unless they're militia guys, unless they're preppers. Do you know what I'm saying? Unless they're like drug-addled, unless their mind is scrambled, choosing a chaotic criminal enterprise to replace their normal government functions. I mean, I just can't imagine them like saying, where's my Social Security check? Well, I'm going to call and I'm going to yell. And there's nobody on the other end of the phone. I just can't imagine people choosing Donald Trump coming after you for tax violations that you didn't commit, but you have to now defend yourself. You talk about the weaponization of the entirety of government. Joe Biden will never do that. And you know how you know that? So the Supreme Court said that the President of the United States, while he's in his official capacity as president, as commander-in-chief, for example, awesome power, core power of the president, right? Using the military against his enemies. Biden would never, ever, 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 never think of doing such a thing. Trump will not think he will do such a thing. Trump said that he wanted to shoot the protesters in Lafayette Square Park. He wanted to shoot them. You remember that? And then when they said, really, you want to shoot them? You go, well, you could shoot them in the leg, can't you? Protesters.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
He's going to finally give a direct order to deploy paratroopers into the streets of Washington, D.C., and I'm thinking with weapons and bayonets. And this would be horrible.
What specifically was he suggesting that the U.S. military should do to these protesters?
He says, can't you just shoot them? Just shoot them in the legs or something. And he's suggesting that that's what we should do, that we should bring in the troops and shoot the protesters.
The commander-in-chief was suggesting that the U.S. military shoot protesters.
Yes, in the streets of our nation's capital. That's right.
That's the former Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, telling you that Donald Trump wanted to shoot protesters in the leg so he could have a photo op in front of a church and hold a Bible upside down with his daughter standing there, who brought the Bible and her, $5,000 designer purse. What? True. That's what we're learning about his. Really? And people are going to make the decision that they want that. They want that kind of chaos to replace the Supreme Court shredded the saying shredded the Constitution is really kind. It's not that they shredded, it's that they just said, see this? Pfft, we don't need it anymore. They didn't even bother to shred it. They just tossed it. They threw it out. And they replaced it with their own white Christian nationalism. That's what they did.
I almost want to slow down on firsthand accounts of how despicable he is, because the people who are appalled by hearing that, we couldn't be any more appalled by him. But his supporters, when they hear that, they get excited. Just
Good,
like when
I don't care. There's only one of them.
They hear tapes that he's a racist, they get excited. They
I
hear
don't
he's
care.
disrespecting women, they get excited.
There's not enough of them, Brett. You constantly forget that we're talking about independents who pick the president. That's who picks the president. Okay? There aren't enough maggots in this country to make Donald Trump the president. There weren't the first time. There wasn't in 2020. Obviously, he lost. And there aren't now. There just aren't now. So obviously, all of this doubt about Biden is aimed directly at independent voters. It's aimed at people who live in swing states who could, vote for one or the other, okay? Or stay home. And we need to communicate to those decent, independent people what kind of chaos we would be inviting in to replace what is relatively a peaceful nation, okay? We're not at war. We haven't been at war. Joe Biden ended a 20-year war. Some people were very upset that 13 service members were killed as we exited a 20-year war. I get it, but that's the price for a 20-year war ending. This is not about MAGA. I don't care about MAGA. MAGA are fools. They demonstrate how gullible they are every time they defend this person who does not consider them human, who considers them less than himself, who considers them poorly educated. Or there's my African American. He literally tells you what he thinks of you, that you're a sucker, that you're a loser, and not just the military. People who weren't willing to cheat, people who aren't willing to steal, people who aren't willing to sacrifice their friends, okay, and their friendships in order to enrich themselves. He thinks they're all suckers. He thinks they're all losers. If you're not willing to sell, like America's Mayor, Rudy Giuliani, down the river, if you're not willing to, have him disbarred because you've made him a sycophant to the point where you say, I got you. I got you. Just go and, lie to the legislature. Just go and tell them there was fraud when there was. Go tell that guy in Arizona. Remember him? Rusty, the older man. Remember? And he went out there and lied to him, and he was a smart guy, and he said, do you have the names of these people who cheated? Do you have the names of anybody who voted illegally in my state? The Speaker of the House in Arizona. And he said, I do. I'm just not going to give it to. And he says, you know what? I'm not playing this game. I'm not doing it. I'm not having it. Right? Well, who lost that battle? Rudy Giuliani got disbarred for doing that. Donald Trump is still running for president. And he thinks anybody who values their friendships or values their relationships or values their businesses or their integrity or their own character is a dope. A dope. And anybody who isn't, a graduate of the Wharton School of Business is garbage. It's the stuff that gets stuck on the bottom of his shoe. And here's the mistake people always make. When it comes to autocrats, they think that the autocrats' hatred won't spew into their lives. Somehow because they were loyal to him, or somehow because they elevated him, or they defended him to their friends and relatives, somehow it's not going to come back and bite them in the ass. And it always does. It always does. Next thing you know, your country is in ruins. It's rubble. It's garbage. And he's either fled to Argentina or he kills himself. Or, lucky him, dies of natural causes.
I have a feeling Melania will not be in the basement with a suicide wound with him.
I don't know. I don't know her. I honestly don't know her. But you remember, what's her face? She said she wanted to die and leave a beautiful corpse. I could see Melania thinking that way. Remember? She said, what's her name?
Ava Braun?
Yeah. She said she wanted to eat the cyanide tablet instead of blowing her brains out because she wanted to be a beautiful corpse. Now, Hitler, he was so concerned about, not killing himself, missing and being, brain dead or, needing medical help or whatever in his bunker. So he decided to do both. He bit down on the cyanide tab and shot his brains out so that there was no chance he would survive, And MAGA actually thinks, I know they do, that's an act of courage. That's an act of courage. God will send you to hell for everything Hitler did, but especially for the killing of himself. You know that, right? Mm-hmm. Good. Jahari in Michigan.
Hello, my dear. How
Hi.
are you?
Oh, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm worried. I am. I'm worried about, I'm worried about what is going on because the media is not making any sort of delineation between a felon and a not felon.
And I think, and that's clearly by design. They've been doing the both siding thing just like they did Hillary.
Yeah.
They've been trying to demonize her.
Yep.
But I think that there's a fix for the Supreme Court decision. Adam Schiff 2 years ago passed the Protecting Our Democracy Act, and if you read it, it fixes a lot of guardrails, buttresses, or shores off
Hey,
guardrails.
Tahari, do you remember HR 1? You remember that? Nancy
yes.
Pelosi, HR 1. Yeah, that would solve all of it. It would take money out of politics. It undid Citizens United. It actually did everything you would want to see done. Everything.
But would it specifically undo the Supreme Court decision?
We could expand the Supreme Court. I mean, we have to have a legislature that's willing to do it. We're owed 4 seats. Trump knows that.
Clear. 4. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Robert in California.
Hey, Randi, how you doing?
All right.
All right. Hey, I got an idea. I think Biden should put his awesome powers to the test and using the evidence from the January 6th committee, go after the conspirators and everybody that's been backing them up, that has their hands dirty, that have been shown, or the evidence has shown that they're complicit. We're talking about the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world. We're talking about everybody that is helping support this movement. And if he has those awesome powers, why not test them? It might move Congress to actually to do something. You might get some bipartisanship.
He's too decent a person to go have his House members arrested. He's not a despot. He's not. He's not a dictator. Okay.
Right. Well, but what I'm talking about is we'll use the evidence from the January 6th committee to go.
But there is no evidence
from
from the January 6th committee that implicates Marjorie Taylor Greene
or maybe not her, right? But what I'm saying is the
no
people
Congress
that
members. There were no Congress members that were implicated.
Jared Kushner getting $2 billion isn't something to be investigated?
They are investigating that.
Okay, well, and that's the thing. It's
the
like,
Senate
okay,
is investigating that. So
okay, well, how about going against the judge who keeps holding up the documents case, right?
Well, here's the thing. If she makes any ruling at all, it's going to get appealed to the 11th Circuit, and she is going to end up being removed from that case. If you want to see that case tried, I would suggest you don't vote for Donald Trump, because you vote for Donald Trump and that case goes away. If you want to see what really happened, if anybody is like really, curious about what really happened, your best bet is to vote for, Joe Biden, who won't kill the investigation. The 11th Circuit will remove her. We'll get a new judge, and that case will move along, and we can find out whether or not we had a president who violated the Espionage Act.
Right. I know. Biden's too good of a guy to actually go through with stuff like that. But I'm just saying, if you're giving me awesome powers,
Biden isn't somebody who's going to take a Supreme Court mistake and use it to, prosecute wrongfully people who don't deserve to be prosecuted because there's not enough evidence, or they haven't been indicted by a grand jury, or no, he's not that person. That's never going to happen. But what he would do is have a little look-see at how close the Supreme Court got to literally telling a president he could kill somebody with SEAL Team 6 if he was commander-in-chief, and using his official office to do it, and say to the American people, thank God we dodged that bullet. Now we have to do something about it. And we have to expand the Supreme Court. We have to term limit the Supreme Court. We have to take the money out of politics. We have to bring back HR 1. We have to undo Citizens United. We have to get dark money out of our politics and try and repair it in the next 4 years.
Right. Well, these guys
that's the answer.
Are motivated by...
The answer is never to become what you despise. That is never...
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I agree with you there. I'm just saying these guys are motivated by fear, most of them.
I don't care about them. Again, we have to stop thinking that maggots are going to choose anything for us, because they're not. Maggots don't choose anything. Okay, nothing. They're completely manipulated. They are a minority, and they don't count as far as electing a president. Okay, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, independents in those states are going to pick the president. Stop thinking about MAGA. Stop thinking about people who are addled. Something has happened to them. I don't know what, and I don't have time. We have no time. All we need to do right now is to make sure that independents understand the chaos that they will be bringing to their lives should they choose a convicted felon who has told you he's going to use the government to get even with people he doesn't like.
Especially if Biden were to abuse this immunity decision just before Trump gets in office.
He would never do that.
No, I know. But could you imagine Trump's presidency, should he win after a Biden abuse of this immunity?
No.
Oh, my God. It would every worst nightmare come true, for sure.
And it's probably the only way Biden could lose is if he abused his office and actually became everything that the Supreme Court says he can become: a murderer, a killer, somebody who calls out SEAL Team 6. I mean, the dissent in that case tells you everything. Sonia Sotomayor, she literally wrote it down. Ketanji Brown, they literally wrote it down. So the answer to the question whether or not the president can use SEAL Team 6 to kill his political opponents, immune. Immune. They wrote it down. They're flashing a big, giant light, a red light in front of your face going, hey, everybody, pay attention. This is going to be painful. It's going to be ugly. It's crunch time. We're there. And maybe it is like, the boy who cried wolf a little bit, because every election is the most important election of your lifetime. It is, because it's going to change the trajectory of the country when you change parties. Just even if they're two decent people, right? Even if, one is just a cloth coat Republican and the other one is a regular moderate Democrat. It's still going to change the trajectory of the country when you choose one or the other, right? One is going to actually cut taxes for rich people, and the other one is going to, enrich or help the middle class access a better life. One actually believes in taxing the wealthy, and the other one believes in not taxing the wealthy. So right there, there's a big change to be had. But when you're talking about a chaos agent, when you're talking about somebody that says this can be bloodless if you just lay there and let it happen. Sean said something during the show that kind of freaked me out a little bit. He said, the rape language that the guy from the Heritage Foundation used. I said, what is rape language? What does that mean? And he said, the guy said, well, it could be bloodless if the liberals let it be. He said, that's like saying to, somebody who's pinned down to the ground, if you don't struggle, you won't get hurt. And I thought, wow, that is quite an analogy. That is really breathtaking. But it is true. That is what he's saying to you. That is what the entirety of the Republican Party is saying to you right now.
The left has taken over our institutions. The reason that they are apoplectic right now, the reason that so many anchors on MSNBC, for example, are losing their minds daily is because our side is winning. And so I come full circle in this response and just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
If you just lay there quietly, you won't get too hurt. Won't have to kill you. Leanne in California.
Hi, Randy. I support what you say 100%. I spent last Thursday, Friday, Saturday, today calling all my elected officials, Scott Peters, Nancy Pelosi, Gavin Newsom. I even called Hakeem Jeffries and told him to stop this media con job against Joe Biden. It's meant to divide the Democratic Party and support Joe Biden. The independents are watching what we do right now, and how we treat Joe Biden is how they are going to vote. If we backstab this man who has supported this country wholeheartedly for the last 4 years of my life and everybody else's Democratic life on this call, backstab him, it's a disgrace. We need to support him 100% and stop the media con job. We have had our discussion. Now it's time to move on and support him starting tomorrow.
Yeah, we had our discussion. Everybody agreed it was a very poor performance at the debate. And move on. Now we have an election to have, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
NATO's here, and they'll be watching too. So vote for Joe and stop this media circus now.
I agree with you. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. I mean, the idea that if the media backstabs Joe Biden, that we won't, I don't know. The media seems to think they're just reporting when they're really characterizing how you should think about a person. They do it all the time. They make innocent people look guilty and guilty people look innocent. And I'm so sorry, but this is not a deserved media blitz. Joe Biden's been a fine president.